AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. So, this is going to be long, but I'll try to give as much context as possible. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F. We grew up very close. Our parents divorced when we were teens, and I basically became a second parent to her in many ways. We were inseparable through high school and even after college. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, but we've always managed to stay close. About a year ago, Emily got engaged to a guy named Mark, 27M. I had met Mark a few times before the engagement, and honestly, I didn't like him from the start. It wasn't just a gut feeling. It was a combination of his behavior and attitudes. He's very controlling, tends to belittle people in subtle ways, and has a sort of superiority complex that's hard to ignore. I try to give him the benefit of the doubt because I didn't want to interfere with my sister's happiness. Over the past year, as they've been planning the wedding, I've noticed things that really concern me. For example, he constantly tries to dictate how Emily should look, what she should wear, and even who she should spend time with. She's mentioned feeling smothered, but brushes it off as just him being loving or caring. I've seen him publicly make small but humiliating comments to her friends and family, including me. One instance was at a family dinner where he made a joke about my job in front of everyone, implying I wasn't ambitious enough. I laughed it off at the time, but I could feel my face burning. Emily didn't say anything. She just smiled awkwardly. The tipping point came last month. Emily and I were having brunch, just the two of us, and she mentioned that she wanted to invite only a small number of friends to her wedding because she didn't want it to be too crowded. That seemed fine until she mentioned that Mark was insisting we exclude several of our mutual friends because he didn't like them or didn't think they were appropriate for the wedding. I was shocked. These are people she has known for years, some of them closer to her than him, and Mark was actively trying to dictate her social circle. I tried to talk to Emily about it, but she got defensive and said I was being dramatic, that she needed to respect his wishes, and that I was being too protective. Then, about 2 weeks ago, Emily sent me the wedding invitation. It was a beautiful card, but the message was formal and cold, almost as if it had been written by Mark. The RSVP included a note specifically asking me to be mindful of behavior at the event and to avoid making unnecessary remarks around Mark. I read that note several times because I couldn't believe it. It felt like an accusation before I even got there. I tried calling Emily to discuss it, but she didn't answer. I sent a message saying I didn't appreciate the tone of the note, and all she said was that Mark was just trying to keep everything smooth and that I was overthinking things. After thinking about it for days, I decided to tell Emily that I wouldn't attend the wedding. I explained that it's not that I don't love her or want her to be happy, but I cannot be in the same room as someone who disrespects her, me, and our friends and actively tries to control her life. I told her I wanted to support her, but I also have to protect myself from a toxic environment. She responded by crying and accusing me of ruining her wedding experience and choosing Mark over her. She said I was being selfish and that I had no right to judge her fiancé. I tried to explain that it's not about judging him, but about setting boundaries and protecting myself from a relationship I genuinely believe is harmful to my sister and everyone around him. Now, our parents are getting involved. They both think I should attend because it's Emily's big day and that my absence will hurt her more than anything Mark has done. My friends are divided. Some say I'm standing up for myself and being justified, while others think I'm overreacting and being petty over a wedding. Emily hasn't spoken to me since I told her, and she started posting on social media about how families should support each other no matter what, which I assume is a passive-aggressive jab at me. I understand that weddings are important milestones and that my absence will probably be deeply felt by my sister, but I also feel like attending would compromise my mental health and dignity. I have tried multiple times to discuss my concerns calmly, but it seems like any attempt to set boundaries is being framed as betrayal. I know people are supposed to put aside differences for family events, but this feels different. This isn't a minor disagreement. This is about a person who has shown repeated controlling and demeaning behavior toward people I care about. I also don't want my presence to inadvertently validate his behavior. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. I feel like I'm making a tough but necessary choice, but everyone else seems to think I'm being unreasonable. Character count, 6,540. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after a decade-long feud. I, 32F, and my sister, Marissa, 35F, have had a complicated relationship for as long as I can remember. Growing up, Marissa was always the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect manners, the one everyone in the family adored. I was the troublemaker, though honestly, I think it was mostly perception. By the time I hit high school, I started noticing a pattern where Marissa would get praise for minor accomplishments while my efforts were barely acknowledged. This led to a lot of resentment, and over time, our arguments escalated into full-blown fights that often involved our parents taking sides. One particular incident cemented our feud. I had just turned 22, and I'd been dating someone, Alex, for almost 2 years. Marissa invited herself to a small dinner I was hosting for my birthday, unannounced, and proceeded to loudly criticize everything about my apartment, the food I cooked, and even my choice of boyfriend. She kept insisting Alex wasn't good enough for our family, and that I needed to aim higher. I tried to brush it off, but by the end of the night, Alex and I were both in tears, and I ended up storming out of the house. Our parents begged me to forgive her, but I felt humiliated and unsupported, so I stopped speaking to her. Over the next decade, we had very little contact. There were the occasional obligatory family events where we were in the same room, but I never engaged with her directly. My parents would occasionally ask me to reconcile, but I made it clear that I wasn't going to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. In my mind, the way she treated me crossed a line that couldn't just be forgotten. Fast forward to last month. Marissa got engaged and immediately began planning a wedding. When she announced the date, my parents called me, encouraging me to attend and reminding me that this was a once-in-a-lifetime event and that it would mean a lot to the family. I explained that I wasn't interested in attending due to our history. I even offered to send a gift or write a heartfelt note congratulating her, but I could not bring myself to be in the same room with her, knowing how toxic our past interactions had been. When my parents relayed my decision to Marissa, she reacted explosively. She sent me multiple messages accusing me of being selfish, petty, and cruel. She claimed that I was making the wedding about me, and that my absence would shame the family. She even threatened to uninvite me from any family gatherings until I apologized. I tried to explain that attending would be emotionally damaging and that my choice was not meant to hurt anyone, but she accused me of lying and told everyone in the family that I was the reason family relationships are falling apart. After that, my family members started pressuring me. My mother pleaded, saying it would devastate Marissa if I didn't come. My father said I was being immature and that I was holding grudges unnecessarily. A few cousins messaged me privately, suggesting I was overreacting and that I should just get over it for one day. I stuck to my stance and told them all that I had my reasons and that it wasn't fair to expect me to suppress my feelings for the sake of appearances. Then, 2 weeks ago, Marissa sent a message that really pushed me over the edge. She told me that if I didn't attend, she would make sure I wasn't invited to any future family events, including holidays and birthdays. She also implied that she would share my past conflicts with friends and extended family in a way that painted me as the villain. This felt like emotional blackmail, and I realized that attending would not only be uncomfortable, but might also reinforce a pattern of her controlling how I interact with the family. I responded with a long message explaining my perspective, that I had tried for years to maintain a civil relationship, that her behavior in the past had caused long-term harm, and that attending her wedding would be detrimental to my mental health. I offered one last compromise, sending a meaningful gift and a personal letter to her, but made it clear that I would not attend in person. After that, the family drama escalated. My parents stopped returning my calls, cousins unfriended me on social media, and Marissa has posted repeatedly about the pain of losing her sister in a way that feels performative. I've received a mix of support and criticism from friends. Some say I'm justified in protecting my mental health, while others think I'm being stubborn and need to forgive for the sake of family unity. I'm now questioning whether I handled this correctly. I feel like my feelings and boundaries are valid, but the family's reaction is making me wonder if I should have at least gone for a brief appearance. I don't want to be dishonest about my emotions, but I also don't want to be seen as cruel or selfish. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after a decade-long feud, even though it has caused a major rift in my family? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé plan my wedding? I, 29F, have been engaged to my fiancé, David, 32M, for about a year now, and we've recently started seriously planning our wedding. I've always dreamed of having a wedding that feels personal and intimate, reflecting both me and David's personalities rather than fitting into anyone else's idea of what a perfect wedding should be. That being said, I have a younger sister, Rachel, 26F, who has always been a bit controlling when it comes to family events. She's currently engaged to Mark, 28M, and while I like him, he tends to follow her lead completely, which makes situations with them together tricky sometimes. The problem started when Rachel insisted that she wanted to help plan my wedding. At first, I was okay with this because I thought it would be nice to have her input in small things like flower choices or cake tastings. But it quickly escalated. The first major red flag was when she announced, without asking me, that the wedding would have a specific theme she decided on. She explained that since she's a professional at wedding planning, she's not a professional, she just spent a lot of time on Pinterest. She knew exactly what would make the day perfect. She picked the color scheme, the style of decorations, and even suggested we change the venue we had already booked because it didn't fit the theme. I tried to explain that David and I had already chosen the venue and that it was meaningful to us, but Rachel got offended. She said I was being ungrateful and that I needed to let her handle the creative vision. I tried to compromise, suggesting she could help with minor decorations, like table centerpieces, but she rejected this idea, saying that those were too important to delegate, and she wanted to oversee everything to make sure it matched the overall aesthetic. Things got worse when she started trying to dictate the guest list. She insisted we invite people I barely know because she's friends with them and thinks it would be awkward if they weren't included. She even started creating a seating chart and assigning who would sit at which table. I told her repeatedly that David and I needed to make those decisions ourselves, but she brushed me off, saying we were overreacting and that she just wanted everything to run smoothly. The turning point came when she suggested she should choose my wedding dress. She argued that she knew what would look good on me and that she had a much better eye than I did. I told her this crossed the line, that the dress was something only I should choose, and that David's opinion mattered more than anyone else's. Rachel got extremely upset and accused me of being selfish and not appreciating her help. She said she couldn't understand why I wouldn't let her use her talents to make the day perfect. At this point, I had to have a serious conversation with her. I told her that while I appreciated her wanting to help, she was overstepping and making the planning process stressful for me. I explained that my wedding was for me and David, and while she could contribute in small ways, the major decisions were ours alone. I emphasized that if she couldn't respect our boundaries, she wouldn't be allowed to be involved in planning at all. Rachel did not take this well. She stopped speaking to me for a week and then sent a long message accusing me of being controlling and mean. She said I had ruined our relationship and that I was making her feel like she didn't matter. She also threatened to sit this one out if I didn't let her have more control, which I knew would make family gatherings awkward. My parents are somewhat on her side, saying she just wants to help, but they also agree that the final decisions should be mine and David's. Now, the tension has escalated further because Rachel keeps posting on social media about how stressful wedding planning is and how my ungratefulness is hurting her feelings. Some distant relatives have started asking me why my sister seems upset with me, and it's making me feel guilty despite knowing I'm in the right. David has been fully supportive, telling me that Rachel is being manipulative and that we need to stick to our boundaries, but I still feel bad because I don't want to create a family rift. I've considered giving her a small role, like helping with favors or writing a toast, but I feel that even this might embolden her to try to control bigger aspects. My worry is that if I let her take any real control, it will completely undermine the wedding we've envisioned. On the other hand, if I continue to refuse her involvement, she might continue to sulk or make passive-aggressive comments that could spill into the actual wedding day. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her fiancé plan my wedding? I feel like I'm being firm about my boundaries, but the backlash from Rachel has made me second-guess myself. I want to have a special day with my fiancé, not a day dictated by my sister's ideas. I have been trying to communicate calmly and set limits, but every time I do, Rachel escalates the situation. I just want my wedding to reflect me and David, and I don't think that's unreasonable. Still, with her being upset and my parents subtly siding with her at times, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I'm being harsh. So, Reddit AITA for standing my ground and refusing to let my sister take over my wedding planning, even if it upsets her. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded me from her bridal party and criticized my life choices. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Emily, 31F. Growing up, we were close at times, but as adults, our relationship has been rocky. Emily tends to be very controlling and opinionated, especially about how people live their lives, while I value independence and doing things my way. Over the last few years, this has caused some tension, but I always try to keep the peace because family is important to me. The issue began when Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Tom, 32M, about a year ago. When she started talking about the wedding, I expected, as her younger sister, that I would at least be in the bridal party. I had always imagined myself standing by her side, helping her with dress fittings, and being involved in all the wedding planning. But when she announced her bridal party, I wasn't included. She had 5 bridesmaids, all of whom are either her closest friends from college or women she works with. I was hurt, but tried to brush it off, thinking maybe she just wanted a smaller party or had limited spots. Things escalated during the planning process. She started openly criticizing my life choices. For context, I don't have a traditional career path. I run a small online business selling handmade jewelry. It's something I love, and while it's not high-paying, it's sustainable. Emily, however, frequently made comments about how I should be more ambitious or how wasting my potential was a shame. She even said at one family dinner that she didn't know how our parents were okay with me drifting through life like I am. I try to brush it off, but it stung every time. I started feeling like no matter what I did, she would never approve of me. A month ago, Emily asked me to help with wedding tasks, like sending invitations and organizing a small pre-wedding gathering. I agreed, thinking it would be a way to maintain some relationship and be supportive, even though I was no longer a bridesmaid. But during the first planning meeting, she made it clear she only wanted my help if it was convenient for me, and only if I did things her way. She criticized my ideas outright, dismissed suggestions, and made passive-aggressive comments about how she hoped I wouldn't ruin anything. I left that meeting feeling belittled and unappreciated. A few days later, she sent me a text saying, "I really hope you can support me on my big day, even if you aren't a bridesmaid. It would mean a lot." I responded that I would attend because I love her, but I also expressed that I felt hurt about not being included in the way she had been treating me. Her response was brief. "I don't understand why you're making this about you. It's my wedding. Can't you just be happy for me without making it about yourself?" That message really upset me. It felt dismissive, as if my feelings didn't matter at all. I tried to explain that supporting her didn't mean I had to ignore how hurtful her behavior had been, but she didn't reply. Over the next few weeks, she continued to make indirect comments, mostly through family group chats. She would post about bridesmaid dresses, bachelorette parties, and other wedding-related events, all while tagging everyone except me or making remarks that I felt were intentionally exclusionary. Then, 2 weeks ago, I made a decision that finally prompted a confrontation. I had been invited to a work event that coincidentally fell on the weekend of her bachelorette party. I decided to attend the work event because it was an opportunity for career growth and networking that I couldn't postpone. When Emily found out, she called me and yelled, saying I was choosing strangers over family and proving I don't care about her happiness. I explained calmly that attending my work event didn't mean I didn't care about her. It was just a conflict I couldn't avoid. She responded by saying I was being selfish and would never prioritize family. After that conversation, I realized that attending her wedding might not be a healthy choice for me. I started considering the possibility that she didn't actually want me there for me, but rather only if I fit into her narrative of who I should be. I felt like showing up to her wedding under those conditions would be emotionally exhausting and possibly humiliating. I tried talking to my parents about it. They were upset and said I was overreacting, but they also admitted that Emily had a tendency to be difficult and that my feelings were valid. So, last week, I sent Emily a message saying that I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I explained that I loved her, but couldn't be present in an environment where I felt constantly judged and excluded. I offered to celebrate with her in another way after the wedding and sent a gift to show I still cared. Her response was immediate and harsh. She called me heartless, selfish, and accused me of ruining our family. She said she hoped I could live with the regret of missing one of the most important days of her life. My parents have been pressuring me to reconsider, saying I'm being dramatic and that this will permanently damage my relationship with Emily. Friends are split. Some say I have every right to protect my mental health, while others think I should put aside my hurt to support my sister on her wedding day. I keep questioning myself. Am I overreacting? Should I attend even if it means suppressing my feelings and pretending everything is okay? Or am I justified in stepping away to protect myself from what has been, frankly, years of criticism and hurt? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded me from her bridal party and treated me harshly for my life choices? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded my partner, causing a huge family fallout? I, 36F, have a younger sister, Emily, 33F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, we were close at times, but also had our fair share of arguments and jealousy. As adults, we've managed to maintain a reasonably civil relationship, although it's not particularly warm. I've been in a relationship with my partner, Jordan, 38M, for about 6 years. We live together, share finances, and have a strong relationship built on mutual support. Jordan gets along with most of my family, including Emily, although they don't have a deep connection. Emily got engaged last year, and the wedding planning started soon after. Initially, I thought it would be a normal process, inviting close friends and family. However, as the guest list came together, I noticed that Jordan was not included. When I asked Emily about it, she said it was a small wedding and that she didn't think he should be invited because he's not really part of the family in the traditional sense. I was shocked because Jordan has been with me for 6 years, and it feels like excluding him is a direct slight against me. I tried to explain that for me, a wedding is a family celebration, and excluding my partner felt disrespectful, but Emily insisted it was her choice and not negotiable. I suggested alternative ways to include Jordan without him being at the ceremony, like having him at the rehearsal dinner, the reception, or helping with wedding preparations. Emily refused, saying it would dilute the intimacy of the event and that the guest list had already been set. I tried to reason with her, explaining that 6 years is a long time and that excluding my partner entirely could harm our relationship, but she was adamant. When the wedding day approached, I felt increasingly uncomfortable. I considered attending alone, but the idea of celebrating without my partner, who is an integral part of my life, made me feel unwelcome and resentful. I finally decided to decline the invitation and told Emily that I could not attend if Jordan wasn't included. I explained that it was not about undermining her wedding, but about being respected and acknowledged in my relationship. Emily reacted badly, accusing me of being dramatic, selfish, and trying to control her wedding. The fallout has been intense. My parents are divided. They understand my position, but also feel that Emily's wedding is her day, and they think I should attend regardless. My other siblings are upset with me, calling me stubborn and accusing me of prioritizing my relationship over family. Emily has refused to speak to me and has told mutual friends and relatives that I boycotted her wedding over a minor issue, painting me as unreasonable. Jordan and I are now being excluded from family events and messages, and even holidays have become tense because everyone is picking sides. I still feel conflicted. I don't want to cause a rift in the family, but attending a wedding where my partner is explicitly unwelcome feels disrespectful to our relationship. I've always tried to support Emily in her life decisions, but this feels different. It's not just a difference of opinion. It's a matter of inclusion and respect. I also worry that attending might set a precedent, suggesting that it's acceptable for family members to be excluded from major life events. Adding context, Jordan has been with me for 6 years, contributing significantly to my life and our shared responsibilities. Emily's wedding is relatively small, with about 50 guests. She has invited close friends who she's known less than Jordan. Attempts to mediate with family members have mostly failed, and some are pressuring me to attend for the sake of appearances. This isn't the first time Emily has made unilateral decisions that affect family dynamics, but this feels particularly hurtful. My parents are worried that the feud will continue long after the wedding, potensyali na maging sibling relationships permanently. I've considered sending a gift or attending the reception after the ceremony, but Emily has already made it clear that she doesn't want Jordan present at any part of the day. I feel stuck between maintaining my principles and trying to salvage family relationships. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my long-term partner, even though it has caused a significant family feud. I genuinely want to support her, but I also cannot compromise on respect for my own relationship. Was I wrong to take a stand, knowing it would upset not only Emily but other family members as well? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she's treating my husband? I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Emily, 29F. Growing up, she was the golden child of the family, smart, outgoing, and seemingly perfect in our parents' eyes, while I was always the quiet one who got overshadowed. Despite that, we were reasonably close until adulthood. Things have changed drastically in the last few years, especially after she got engaged. Emily got engaged about a year ago to her fiancé, Ryan, 30M. From the start, I could tell she was controlling about the wedding planning. She has always been the type to want things exactly her way, but over the past year, it has gotten extreme. She insists on a very specific theme, dress codes, and even meal choices for the guests. At first, I tried to be accommodating because I wanted to support her big day, but it started to feel like she was controlling everything and everyone. The main issue began when she started commenting on my husband, Jason, 34M. Jason and I have been married for 5 years. He's a little introverted, doesn't like being in the spotlight, but he's always kind, respectful, and very supportive of me. Emily, however, started making subtle remarks about him from the moment she got engaged. She said things like, "I hope Jason can handle all the socializing at the wedding," or, "I really hope he doesn't embarrass you in front of everyone," or even jokingly, "Jason, you might want to practice smiling. You don't want to look bored at my wedding." At first, I laughed it off, thinking it was harmless teasing, but it became more frequent and started crossing lines. Things escalated when she started trying to dictate what Jason would wear. She demanded he rent a tuxedo that matched some ridiculous shade of blue she had chosen. When Jason suggested he could wear a suit he already owned, she said it would ruin the aesthetic and implied that he was lazy for not wanting to rent a tuxedo. This made Jason extremely uncomfortable, but he tried to comply because he didn't want to cause a scene. The tipping point came a few weeks ago during the rehearsal dinner. Emily had invited a few of her closest friends and family members to discuss seating arrangements. I noticed immediately that Jason was being singled out. She criticized how he held his glass, joked about his table manners, and even made a comment in front of everyone implying he didn't belong in such a fancy setting. Jason, who rarely drinks, was handed a champagne glass and told to pretend to know what to do with it. It was humiliating to watch. After the dinner, I confronted Emily privately, telling her that her behavior was crossing a line and that Jason did not deserve to be treated this way. She laughed it off, saying, "I'm just joking. He needs to toughen up if he's going to be part of this family event." I tried explaining that it wasn't funny and that it was making Jason feel unwelcome, but she shrugged it off and said, "You're being too sensitive. He's fine. Honestly, it's your problem if he can't handle it." I went home that night and cried because I realized that attending the wedding might mean subjecting my husband to an entire day of public humiliation. I tried reasoning with myself, thinking maybe she would behave during the actual ceremony and reception, but Jason was firm. He told me that if we went, he would feel anxious and uncomfortable the whole time, and he didn't think he could enjoy it. He added that he didn't want to put me in a position where I would feel torn between my sister and him. I talked to my parents about the situation, hoping for some support. My mom immediately said, "Emily is just excited. She doesn't mean anything by it. You should just suck it up and go. It's her big day." My dad was a bit more understanding, but also suggested, maybe Jason just needs to lighten up. Emily has always been dramatic about these things. I felt completely unsupported and even more isolated. After a lot of thought, I called Emily and told her that Jason and I would not be attending the wedding. I explained that I loved her and wanted to celebrate her happiness, but I could not put Jason through a day where he would be humiliated and treated disrespectfully. I also told her that I hoped she could understand that this was about protecting our relationship and mental health, not about her wedding. Emily's reaction was explosive. She screamed at me over the phone, calling me selfish and accusing me of trying to ruin her wedding. She said things like, "I can't believe you would punish me because Jason is too sensitive. This is about me and my big day, not him." She also told me that our parents were disappointed and that I was making a huge mistake that I'd regret forever. I tried to stay calm, but she kept yelling, and eventually she hung up on me. I've since received multiple messages from mutual friends telling me that Emily is spreading the story that I refuse to be part of the family and that I hate her wedding. Jason has been supportive throughout, but I feel torn. On one hand, I know I did the right thing by standing up for him. On the other hand, I feel guilty about hurting my sister and potentially creating a rift that might never heal. My parents haven't really reached out to comfort me or Jason. They seem more focused on Emily's feelings. I keep replaying the situation in my head, wondering if I overreacted or if I should have tried harder to attend despite Emily's behavior. My friends tell me I was right to protect my husband, but the fact that it's causing so much drama and anger from my sister and family makes me question myself sometimes. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the way she's treating my husband. Character count 6,475. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. I, 28F, have a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emily, 32F. Growing up, we were close, but as adults, our values and personalities have diverged significantly. Emily has always been more assertive, sometimes aggressively so, and I tend to avoid conflict. Our parents are still very involved in both our lives, which often exacerbates tensions, but I've tried to maintain a respectful distance where possible. The issue started a few years ago when Emily began dating her now fiancé, Mark, 35M. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I met Mark a few times, and while I didn't dislike him outright, there were small things that made me uneasy. He had a tendency to dominate conversations, interrupt others, and often belittle people under the guise of joking. Emily seemed to brush it off or laugh along, so I assumed it was just his personality and try not to take it personally. Over the years, however, it became clear that his behavior extended beyond social awkwardness. He has a pattern of being controlling toward Emily. He criticizes her career choices, subtly undermines her decisions, and constantly questions her friends and family in ways that felt invasive to me. Once, at a family dinner, he loudly commented that our parents were too lenient with Emily and suggested she needed real guidance, which embarrassed her in front of everyone. Emily laughed it off, but I noticed her smile didn't reach her eyes. I tried to speak with her privately about it, but she said I was overreacting and that Mark just cares a lot. Fast forward to this year, Emily announced her engagement. At first, I was happy for her, but as the planning progressed, my unease grew. Mark insisted on controlling almost every aspect of the wedding, including the guest list. He pressured Emily to exclude anyone he considered negative influences, which included some of our extended family members I'm close with. Emily agreed to his suggestions, citing that she didn't want to stress over family drama. This wouldn't have been a problem if it were just her preference, but the way Mark framed it made it feel like a power play. The breaking point came last month when Emily asked me to help with the wedding preparations. I have some experience in event planning, so I offered my help, expecting a collaborative effort. The reality was different. Mark micromanaged every task I attempted to take on, criticized my ideas, and made passive-aggressive remarks in front of Emily, like, "Are you sure that's how you want to do it?" Some people might find it tacky. I tried to brush it off, but after several incidents, I realized that my input was consistently dismissed or ridiculed. Emily didn't intervene. She seemed to have adopted Mark's perspective entirely, often agreeing with him and subtly scolding me for not understanding his vision. A week ago, things escalated. Emily and I were discussing the seating arrangements for the reception. I suggested a few changes to balance out family dynamics, as there were tensions between certain relatives. Mark immediately reacted, telling me that I was overcomplicating things and that Emily should just trust his judgment. When I tried to explain my reasoning, he cut me off and called my ideas childish and out of touch. Emily didn't defend me. Instead, she nodded along and told me we could revisit it later. I left that conversation feeling humiliated and exhausted. After reflecting, I realized that attending the wedding would mean supporting a union that feels coercive and one-sided. I felt that my presence would implicitly condone Mark's behavior, not only toward me, but toward Emily as well. I tried discussing my concerns with Emily, explaining that I didn't feel comfortable attending if the dynamic between her and Mark remained the same. She reacted angrily, accusing me of being selfish, controlling, and trying to sabotage her happiness. She said I was putting my judgment above her choice and claimed that Mark had changed and that I just didn't know him. I tried to explain that it wasn't personal dislike. It was about behavior patterns I had witnessed repeatedly over years. She refused to listen. Our parents are upset with me too. They think I'm overreacting and being dramatic, claiming that every relationship has quirks and that I should support my sister no matter what. Some of my friends side with me, saying Mark's behavior is clearly manipulative and that Emily might not see it because she's in love, while others think I'm making a big deal out of minor issues. I've been called the villain by Emily in group chats, and several family members are pressuring me to reconsider for the sake of family unity. I'm torn. I love my sister, and I want her to be happy, but I also can't ignore what I've seen. I feel that attending would betray my own values and tacitly endorse behavior that has been consistently controlling and disrespectful. I did try to compromise by saying I could attend the ceremony, but not the reception, or that I could help with parts of the wedding planning remotely, but Emily rejected both ideas. She insisted that if I wasn't fully involved and supportive, then I shouldn't attend at all. I have decided not to attend the wedding, but now the backlash has made me question myself. Am I really being unreasonable, or am I justified in setting this boundary? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé? AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting choices and causing a huge family rift? This all started about 6 months ago. My younger sister, Megan, has always been the free-spirited type. She's 27, single, and has a daughter, Lily, who just turned 5. Our family has always been close, but Megan has a history of making impulsive decisions, and until recently, I usually kept my opinions to myself. The incident that sparked everything happened at a family dinner for my parents' anniversary. Megan showed up with Lily and a friend of hers, Chris, who I barely know. Lily is a sweet kid, very energetic and curious, but she can also be loud and a bit chaotic when she's excited. That night, Megan let Lily run around the house unsupervised, climbing on furniture, knocking things over, and even try to open doors that lead to the backyard. My parents were visibly uncomfortable, but they didn't say anything. I was trying to help clean up some spilled drinks when Lily suddenly ran into the kitchen and grabbed a knife from the counter. I managed to stop her in time, but it was terrifying. After everyone calmed down, I pulled Megan aside and told her that I thought her parenting was dangerously negligent. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her she needed to set firmer boundaries for Lily, supervise her more closely, and think about her safety. Megan got defensive immediately, saying I was overreacting and that I didn't understand her parenting style. She said that she encourages Lily to explore and learn from mistakes, and that a little independence wasn't going to hurt her. I tried to explain that there's a difference between fostering independence and leaving a 5-year-old to handle sharp objects unsupervised, but she wasn't having it. The tension escalated quickly. Megan accused me of being controlling and judgmental. Chris, her friend, chimed in, saying I had no right to lecture someone else about their parenting. I tried to stay calm, but I ended up raising my voice. I told her that if Lily got seriously hurt because of her negligence, I would never forgive myself for staying quiet. Megan stormed out with Lily and Chris, leaving the rest of us in an awkward silence. In the weeks that followed, our family gatherings became a minefield. Megan stopped coming to events, and our parents were clearly frustrated with the situation. They told me that I should have handled it differently and that I was too harsh. I explained that I was genuinely concerned for Lily's safety, but they didn't seem to understand that I wasn't attacking Megan personally. I was worried about the child. The situation worsened when I saw a photo on social media of Lily climbing on a kitchen counter at Megan's apartment, with Chris watching and doing nothing. I commented, politely asking if Lily was okay and suggesting maybe they should supervise her more closely. Megan responded angrily, saying I had no right to comment on her parenting online and that I was trying to publicly shame her. The post blew up with some of our extended family chiming in. Some sided with Megan, saying I was overstepping boundaries, while others agreed that Lily's safety was being compromised. Eventually, our parents invited me and Megan to a mediation dinner, hoping we could reconcile. Megan refused to come unless I apologized for my attacks. I didn't want to apologize for expressing concern about a child's safety, so I declined. Our parents ended up hosting separate dinners for each of us instead. The entire situation has caused a huge rift in the family. Since all this started, I've tried to maintain contact with Lily, even suggesting playdates at parks where I can supervise her and she can have fun safely. Megan initially agreed, but then canceled several times, accusing me of trying to undermine her authority. It's heartbreaking because I genuinely care about my niece and want her to be safe and happy. Some friends have told me that I was right to confront Megan and that Lily's safety should always come first, while others say I should have handled it privately and less confrontationally. I can see both sides, but I also feel like if I hadn't said anything, something serious could have happened to Lily. I've been reflecting a lot, and I'm trying to figure out if I really was the asshole in this situation or if I was justified in speaking up, even though it caused a major family fallout. So, AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting, even though it caused tension and a rift in the family. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to lend my brother money for a business venture and causing a massive family fight. I, 38M, have a younger brother, Daniel, 34M, who has always been ambitious but financially reckless. Growing up, our parents tried to teach us about money management. Daniel never really listened and often spent beyond his means. I, on the other hand, have always been careful with my finances. I own my home, have savings, and manage my investments responsibly. Over the years, I've helped Daniel a few times with small amounts, paying for car repairs, helping him cover rent during rough patches, but always amounts that I could afford to give without risking my own stability. A few months ago, Daniel came to me with a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. He wants to open a boutique coffee shop in a trendy neighborhood downtown. He claims the location is perfect, the clientele is ready, and his concept is unique enough to stand out. The total startup cost, including rent, renovations, equipment, licenses, and initial inventory, is around $120,000. He wants me to front the money, promising to pay me back within 3 years once the business becomes profitable. He presented a rough business plan, some market research, and a few charts he had made himself. I reviewed everything carefully. The plan was full of assumptions, optimistic projections, and little concrete evidence that the business would succeed. I asked Daniel to clarify certain points: realistic monthly expenses, actual competition analysis, potential customer flow, and a detailed marketing strategy. He dismissed my questions, saying I was being too skeptical and that my caution showed I didn't believe in him. He insisted that family should trust family and that this was an investment in our future together. I tried to negotiate a compromise. I offered to contribute a smaller amount, like $20,000, which he could use for initial inventory or minor renovations, on the condition that he seek additional funding from a bank or investors. I also suggested he consult a professional business advisor to refine the plan. Daniel refused, saying anything less than full funding would doom the project and that my lack of commitment proved I didn't support him. After I refused to provide the full amount, Daniel went to our parents for support. They were shocked that I wouldn't back him fully. They argued that I should help because it was family and that refusing to fund his dream was selfish and unkind. Daniel's wife also joined in, saying I was blocking his potential and that he could succeed with my help. I tried to explain my concerns about the risk, but they said I was letting fear control me and that I should take a leap of faith. The argument escalated further when Daniel started telling extended family members that I was greedy and unsupportive. Suddenly, I was receiving calls from cousins, aunts, and uncles asking why I wouldn't back my brother. Some sided with him, saying I should have done anything to help family succeed, while others quietly agreed with my caution. The family dynamic has completely changed. Holidays are tense, and my parents are disappointed in me. Daniel has stopped speaking to me and has blocked me on social media. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for being financially responsible. I have always tried to support Daniel in ways I could afford, but this is a huge amount of money, and his business plan did not inspire confidence. I worry that even if the business succeeds, the arrangement could create resentment or complications in our relationship. If it fails, it could cause real financial harm to me and my family. Adding context, I have savings and investments, but $120,000 is a substantial portion of my liquid assets, and losing it would affect my long-term security. Daniel has little experience running a business. He has worked in retail and restaurants, but never managed finances or employees in a leadership role. His projections assume rapid customer growth and minimal unexpected expenses, which is unrealistic in the current market. I offered compromise options, including partial funding, loans, or professional guidance, all of which he rejected. This situation has caused tension not just between Daniel and me, but with our parents and extended family, creating an ongoing feud. I want to support my brother, but I also cannot ignore the financial risk or the lack of preparation on his part. I've considered offering a formal loan agreement with strict repayment terms, but Daniel refuses any conditions. I feel trapped between protecting my own financial stability and the pressure from family to believe in his dream. So, AITA for refusing to give my brother $120,000 for his business venture, even though it has caused a huge family rift. I feel like I'm being responsible and trying to protect both him and myself, but he and other family members see me as unsupportive, selfish, and even cruel. Was I wrong to draw a line, even though it upset not only Daniel, but also my parents and extended family? AITA for confronting my sister over her parenting choices and causing a huge family fallout? I, 32F, have always been the responsible sibling in my family. My younger sister, Sarah, 28F, has a reputation for being impulsive and sometimes careless, but I always tried to stay out of her business. Our parents passed away when we were both in our 20s, and since then, I've felt a lot of pressure to step in whenever I think something is going wrong. I realize that may sound controlling, but I honestly believe I act out of concern. Sarah has a 6-year-old son, Ethan, who is extremely bright, but also very sensitive. I love him like my own child, and I've always tried to help whenever she asks. The tension started about a year ago when I noticed some things about the way she was raising him that made me uncomfortable. She has this habit of letting Ethan do whatever he wants in public. I once saw him throw a tantrum in a grocery store because he wanted candy, and Sarah literally handed him a pack without saying no. I thought it was a one-time thing, but then it happened again at a restaurant, at a birthday party, and even at a library. It felt like he had no boundaries, and it was starting to affect how others in our family and social circle interacted with him. I tried bringing it up casually. I said things like, maybe setting some rules might help him behave better in public, or I think Ethan would benefit from a little more structure. Sarah brushed me off every time. She said I was being judgmental and that my ideas about discipline were outdated. I tried to let it go, but it became harder when I started noticing that Ethan was also becoming more aggressive at home. He would hit his toys, yell at his cousin, and even throw things at her when he didn't get his way. The tipping point came 2 months ago. Sarah invited me over for brunch with her and Ethan. Ethan started grabbing things off the table before we could sit down, spilled juice on the floor, and basically ran wild around the apartment. I calmly asked Sarah if we could redirect him to the table or give him a gentle reminder to wait, but she laughed it off and said, "Let him be a kid." I didn't want to start an argument in front of Ethan, so I stayed quiet, but my frustration was building. Later that day, Ethan threw a full-blown tantrum over not getting a second slice of cake. He kicked over his chair, and Sarah laughed and gave him another slice anyway. I finally snapped. I told her, in front of Ethan, that this was not healthy, that giving into tantrums was teaching him that acting out gets him what he wants, and that she needed to start setting boundaries. Sarah looked shocked and defensive. She told me I had no right to lecture her in front of her child and that my perfectionist attitude was harmful. I tried to apologize for the way I delivered it, but I also reiterated that something needed to change for Ethan's sake. That's when things escalated. She blocked me on social media, refused to answer my calls, and texted me a few days later accusing me of trying to parent her son and control her life. I was hurt and angry, so I sent her a long message explaining that I only intervened out of love and concern for Ethan. I mentioned that I would continue to support her, but I couldn't stay silent while her son's behavior spiraled. Our parents had always taught us that family should stick together, and I thought that principle included having difficult conversations when necessary. Instead, the message I got back was that I was overstepping my boundaries and that our relationship might not survive if I kept interfering. The final straw came when Sarah posted on her private Instagram story a video of Ethan throwing a fit at a toy store, captioned, "Maybe some people need to learn minding their own business." She didn't tag me, but I knew exactly who she was talking about. I felt crushed. I didn't want our relationship to end like this, and I also didn't want Ethan to suffer because of my silence. I reached out one more time and asked if we could meet and talk face-to-face, but she refused. She said I should respect her parenting and that I was not welcome in her life if I couldn't. I haven't seen Ethan in over a month, and the thought of losing him completely terrifies me. My other family members are divided. My parents' best friends and some cousins say I was right to confront her and that I shouldn't ignore signs of poor parenting. Others, including some close cousins, say I was too harsh, especially in front of Ethan, and that I should have found a more subtle approach. I feel like I'm walking a tightrope. On one hand, I don't want to hurt my sister or damage my relationship with Ethan. On the other hand, I can't pretend that what I saw was okay. I worry that Ethan will develop serious behavioral issues if he continues without any boundaries, and I feel morally responsible to say something. So, AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting, even though it caused a major rift in our family. I know I could have handled it differently, and I've been reflecting on whether I should have waited or chosen a more private moment. But part of me thinks that sometimes waiting just lets the problem get worse, especially when a child is involved. I just don't know what to do now. I miss my sister and Ethan terribly, but I also can't condone behavior that I genuinely believe is harmful. Have I crossed a line, or was I right to speak up? AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he insulted my career in front of our entire family? I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older brother, Mark, 35M. Growing up, he was the golden child of our family, smart, athletic, charming, and the type of person who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I, on the other hand, always felt like I lived in a shadow. I was the quiet, academically inclined one who loved writing and art, while he excelled in everything he attempted. Despite this, we generally had a decent relationship, though there was always an undercurrent of competitiveness that sometimes made things tense. My career has been a major point of contention between Mark and me. I work as a freelance graphic novelist and illustrator. It's not a traditional 9 to 5, and I don't have a steady paycheck, but I've been able to make a living doing what I love for over a decade. I've had some books published, won a few small awards, and even have a modest following online. While it's not the type of career that guarantees financial stability, I love the creative freedom it offers and have never regretted my decision to pursue it. Mark, on the other hand, works in finance and makes a six-figure salary. He often emphasizes how important stability and traditional success are, and he tends to view my career as flaky or not real work. Over the years, this has led to some arguments, but I've generally learned to shrug off his comments and just focus on my own path. The conflict started in earnest when Mark got engaged to his fiancée, Laura. The wedding planning process has been extremely stressful for him, as he is a very controlling and perfectionist person. He has been particularly focused on ensuring that the wedding is impressive and reflects well on him and his career. I, on the other hand, have not been involved in the planning at all, and he never asked me for input, which is fine. I don't mind not being part of the organizing, but he's made multiple passive-aggressive comments about my irrelevance to the wedding, claiming he only wanted family who matter to attend. Last weekend, we had the family rehearsal dinner. It was a small gathering, maybe 30 people. I was sitting next to my mom when Mark suddenly decided to make a speech thanking everyone for coming and acknowledging family. This is where things escalated. Instead of giving a heartfelt speech, Mark started making comparisons between our career paths, framed as jokes, but in a way that was extremely humiliating. He said, "I'm so glad some of us figured out how to make a real living, unlike others who chase silly little dreams." It's cute, really. Some people spend years making comic books that maybe 5 people read, and yet they still call it a job. My sister, for example. And then he laughed in a way that made it clear the audience was expected to laugh too. I froze. The room went awkwardly silent, and I could feel everyone's eyes on me. I wanted to shrink into the floor. I tried to smile, but it came out forced. My mom gave me a sad look, like she wanted me to respond calmly. Laura, Mark's fiancée, looked mortified but didn't say anything. Mark continued with more jokes about my hobby career, claiming I must have a lot of free time to watch TV and eat snacks since I didn't have a real job. At that point, I finally stood up. I told him that his comments were cruel and completely inappropriate, especially in front of our family. I explained that my work is legitimate and something I am proud of, and that belittling it in front of everyone was disrespectful. I also mentioned that a rehearsal dinner is not the place to attack your sibling, no matter how funny you think it is. Mark responded by telling me to lighten up and that I was too sensitive, which only made me angrier. I told him I would not be attending the wedding if he continued to treat me like this. There was a tense silence, and I left the dinner immediately. Since then, my family has been divided. My parents are furious at Mark and apologize to me multiple times, but they're also trying to mediate, saying I should forgive and forget because it's his wedding. My aunts and uncles are split. Some agree that Mark was out of line and that he embarrassed me, while others say I overreacted and that I should just attend for the sake of family unity. Mark has sent multiple texts asking me to reconsider and attend the wedding. He claims he was just joking and that I am ruining the family atmosphere by holding a grudge. He even said that if I don't attend, I am making this about me instead of supporting him on his big day. I've considered attending for the sake of family, but the thought of sitting in the same room as him, knowing he might try to humiliate me again, makes me feel sick. I also feel like if I go, I'm sending a message that it's okay for him to treat me like this publicly. I made it clear that I will attend the wedding only if he apologizes sincerely in private before the event and agrees to respect my career and boundaries, but so far he hasn't. Everyone keeps asking me if I'm sure I want to make this choice, and it's exhausting. I also worry about the long-term impact on my family relationships if I refuse, but I honestly don't feel like I can put myself through that humiliation just for appearances. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he publicly insulted my career? I feel justified, but my family keeps making me doubt myself. Additional context. I have never insulted Mark's career in return, even though I sometimes think about it. I have generally tried to maintain a civil and supportive relationship. I also offered to meet separately with family members who want to celebrate privately, so it's not like I'm cutting everyone off entirely. I just feel that Mark's behavior crossed a line in a way that makes me not want to be part of his big day until he acknowledges the harm he caused. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her new husband? This is going to be a long one, so I'll try to make it as clear as possible. I, 32F, have a sister, Emma, 29F, who I've been very close to our entire lives. We grew up in a small town and were practically inseparable until she moved out for college. Our relationship stayed strong through texts, calls, and yearly visits home, and I was her maid of honor at her first wedding. That wedding ended in a messy divorce 2 years later, which was hard on both of us. I supported her the entire time, even when her ex-husband made things difficult. Fast forward 3 years, and Emma met someone new. I'll call him Ryan, 31M. When she first introduced him to me, I tried to keep an open mind, but something about him rubbed me the wrong way. He was charming on the surface, but I noticed little things that seemed controlling or dismissive. For example, at dinner the first time I met him, he interrupted Emma multiple times when she tried to speak about her work, and he made jokes about her friends being a bad influence. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I left that night feeling uneasy. Emma, on the other hand, seemed smitten and convinced I was overreacting. Over the next year, I watched them more closely, mostly through family events. Ryan always had a comment or critique for her. When she bought a new car, he said it was too flashy. When she planned a vacation with friends, he asked if she really needed to go. I voiced my concerns to Emma gently, but she would either laugh them off or tell me I was being judgmental. I tried to respect her autonomy, but I couldn't ignore the patterns I saw. 6 months ago, they got engaged. At first, I was happy for her, but as the wedding plans unfolded, Ryan's influence became more obvious. He insisted that certain family members not be invited because he didn't get along with them, including one of my cousins who had been particularly close to Emma. He also wanted to pick all of the wedding colors, themes, and even the music, claiming Emma had no real taste and style. Emma seemed to go along with all of it, and I started to feel like she was more his version of a bride than her own self. I tried talking to her about it, in what I thought was a reasonable way. I said, "Emma, I feel like you're losing your voice in this wedding. I know you love Ryan, but these decisions feel like they're coming from him, not you." She told me I was being dramatic and that it was normal for couples to compromise. I let it go because I didn't want to cause conflict. 2 months ago, she sent me the official invitation. Ryan had a big part in the wording, design, and even the seating chart. When I saw my assigned seat, I realized that Ryan had placed me at a table far from Emma, with people he clearly thought I wouldn't connect with. When I asked Emma about it, she said, "It doesn't matter, just sit wherever you want." But the message felt clear to me. He didn't want me near her on her wedding day. That hurt, but I still tried to move forward. Then, last month, something happened that pushed me over the edge. Emma asked me to help with the bridal shower. I agreed, thinking it would be fun. But when I suggested some ideas that I thought would suit her personality, Ryan immediately dismissed them in front of me. Later, Emma told me that Ryan felt my ideas were too complicated and that she wanted to keep things simple. That was the moment I realized he had taken over everything, and Emma wasn't defending her own choices. I felt like my sister had disappeared into someone else's life, and I didn't want to participate in a celebration that didn't feel like her. I called Emma a few days later to explain why I couldn't be involved in the wedding. I told her that I loved her, but I didn't feel comfortable being part of a day that seemed controlled by someone who disrespected her voice and mine. I explained my feelings calmly, but she broke down and accused me of being selfish and judgmental. She said I was overreacting and that I needed to respect her choices. I tried to explain that my concern wasn't about Ryan himself, but about the dynamics I had observed and how they were affecting her. She wouldn't listen. A week later, our parent called me, upset that I was refusing to attend. They argued that it would hurt Emma more than help her, and that I was letting my feelings about Ryan ruin a special day. I told them I understood their perspective, but that attending would feel like endorsing something I couldn't support. My mom got emotional, saying, "He's your brother-in-law now. You need to try to make peace." I explained that this wasn't about me being hostile. I just couldn't in good conscience celebrate under these circumstances. I have tried to leave the door open for our relationship outside of the wedding. I still call Emma, send her messages, and check in, but she barely responds anymore. Every time I reach out, she brings up the wedding, and I feel guilty and frustrated at the same time. My friends say I'm doing the right thing by standing up for myself and my values, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm abandoning my sister at a major life event. I don't want to cause a permanent rift, but I also don't want to pretend everything is fine when I feel disrespected. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her husband and the way he has treated both of us. I feel like I'm protecting myself and, in a way, my sister too, but everyone else seems to think I'm being unreasonable. I want to be supportive, but I don't know how to do that without being part of an event that feels entirely dictated by someone who undermines both me and her. I feel stuck between loyalty to my sister and loyalty to my own values, and I'm not sure if I'm being cruel by standing my ground. This has already caused a lot of tension, and I'm worried it might permanently damage our relationship, which is the last thing I want. I just don't know how to navigate loving someone while refusing to celebrate a situation I find unhealthy. AITA? AITA for refusing to let my roommate's dog live in my apartment, causing a huge fallout? I, 29F, live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my best friend and roommate, Megan, 30F. We've been living together for about 3 years, and overall, things have gone smoothly. We split rent, utilities, chores, and generally respect each other's space. We've always been upfront about our boundaries, and I thought we were on the same page regarding pets. I've never had pets in the apartment and made it clear before moving in that I am allergic to dogs and cats. Megan has had pets in the past, and she knows I'm careful about exposure to allergens. Recently, Megan adopted a dog, a medium-sized mixed breed named Max, from a friend who could no longer care for him. She asked if she could bring him home, and I immediately said no because of my allergies. Megan was frustrated, saying that Max was her responsibility now and that she couldn't just leave him at her parents' house indefinitely. She offered to take extra precautions, keeping Max in her room, bathing him regularly, using air purifiers, and cleaning the apartment constantly. I appreciated her effort, but explained that my allergies are severe enough that even with precautions, I could have reactions ranging from constant sneezing and itchy eyes to breathing problems. I also pointed out that I spend a lot of time in the apartment, and it isn't fair to force me into an environment that could make me sick. Megan got upset and accused me of being unsupportive and selfish. She said that she never expected me to treat her like a child, and that refusing the dog felt like a lack of trust and respect for her decisions. I tried to explain that it's not about trust. It's about my health and our shared living space. She said I was overreacting and that other roommates manage pets without issues. I reminded her that my allergies are not minor and that exposure could affect my work, my sleep, and my daily life. Things escalated over the next week. Megan started leaving passive-aggressive notes about me, not being a good friend, and not being flexible, and she began sneaking Max into the apartment when she thought I wasn't home. One afternoon, I came back and found Max in the living room. I had a severe allergic reaction immediately with hives and trouble breathing. I told Megan that this was exactly why I couldn't allow him in the apartment, but she said I was making it about me and that Max was part of the family now. I decided to take a firm stance. I told Megan that Max could not live in the apartment under any circumstances. She could find another solution, like her parents' house or a pet sitting service, but he could not stay here. Megan exploded, saying I was unreasonable, controlling, and ruining her life. She accused me of choosing comfort over friendship and of prioritizing allergies over her happiness. She threatened to move out and said she was done living here if I wouldn't compromise. Since then, the situation has spiraled. Megan is staying temporarily at her parents' house, and our communication has been minimal. Mutual friends are divided, with some saying I am justified and others siding with Megan. Our apartment dynamic is strained, and I feel like I've lost a close friendship over a situation that I thought was reasonable. I've considered moving out myself to preserve the friendship, but financially, it's not feasible right now. I feel like I've been responsible and clear about my boundaries from the beginning. I offered alternatives and tried to compromise in ways that respected both of our needs. I never asked Megan not to have Max entirely. I only asked that he not live in the apartment due to my health. Megan, however, sees it as a personal attack and a refusal to support her. Additional context. My allergies are clinically diagnosed and can cause severe reactions. Megan has a history of impulsive decisions and sometimes disregard consequences if she feels strongly about something. We have always shared responsibilities in the apartment, and I have been a supportive roommate in every other way. Megan's parents offered to take Max temporarily, but she refused because she felt it would be inconvenient. Our friends are trying to mediate, but the tension remains, and our social group has noticed the rift. I'm stuck between protecting my health and preserving a friendship that I value. I don't want to be seen as selfish or inflexible, but I also cannot risk my well-being. I've considered compromises like temporary visits or short stays at her parents' house, but Megan refuses anything that isn't permanent. So, AITA for refusing to let my roommate's dog live in our apartment. Even though it has caused a huge fallout and strained our friendship, I feel like I am being responsible and clear about my limits, but Megan and some mutual friends see me as unsupportive and controlling. Was I wrong to draw a hard line on this? Even though it upset Megan and created a significant rift in our friendship and living situation? AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she insulted my house? I, 32F, have always been the responsible sibling in my family. My younger sister, Jess, 28F, has a habit of being dramatic and expecting people to accommodate her whims without question. For context, Jess and I live in the same city, but in very different situations. I own a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. It's not huge or luxurious, but I put a lot of effort into making it cozy and welcoming. Jess, on the other hand, moves around a lot and tends to rely on other people for help when she's planning events. A few months ago, Jess got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. I was genuinely happy for her and offered to help with some of the planning since we have a fairly tight-knit group of friends and family who often get involved in these things. She immediately started asking if she could have her wedding in my apartment. At first, I thought she was joking. My apartment is 2 bedrooms, 1 living room, and 1 bathroom. Hosting a wedding here would be physically impossible. I told her that and suggested she consider a small community hall or even her parents' backyard, which is significantly larger and could accommodate more people. Just didn't like that answer. She insisted that my apartment was perfectly fine because she just wanted an intimate ceremony with maybe 20 people. I tried to explain that 20 people would be crowded to the point of chaos, especially considering that I have neighbors who might complain and limited seating. She waved off my concerns and started saying things like, "You're always making excuses. It's like you don't care about me or my big day." At this point, I started setting boundaries. I said I was willing to host a small dinner after the wedding or maybe a casual brunch, but an actual ceremony in my apartment was out of the question. Jess did not take this well. She called me selfish and said that I didn't love her. She even went as far as saying my apartment was too ugly and small for something important like a wedding. That comment really stung. I spent months decorating, cleaning, and making it feel like a home, and the idea that my own sister would call it ugly felt like a personal attack. I tried to defuse the situation by suggesting compromise. I offered to help her find a small venue, contribute financially to the decorations, and even help organize the guest list. She rejected every idea. She seemed determined to force the wedding at my place. At this point, I decided to take a firm stance. I would not host her wedding. I told her that if she wanted my help, it would not involve using my apartment as the venue. This led to a full-blown argument over text and phone calls. She accused me of ruining her wedding and claimed I was trying to embarrass her in front of friends and family. She even sent me links to articles about people hosting weddings in apartments, implying that I was being unreasonable. I read them, but the situations were different. These were larger lofts or open-plan spaces, often with private entrances and facilities that could accommodate guests. My apartment does not fit that description. Eventually, she went ahead and booked a venue without telling me, assuming that I would simply attend and support her. When she found out I wasn't thrilled about the choice, she got offended again, saying I was being difficult. I tried to focus on celebrating her marriage rather than continuing the argument, but the tension lingered. A week before the wedding, she visited my apartment unannounced to see if it was manageable for the ceremony. I was at work, so she let herself in with my spare key, which she has from years ago. She walked through the rooms, made a few loud comments about the furniture being outdated and the space cramped, and left without even saying goodbye. I was furious. This felt like a blatant invasion of my home and my privacy. I sent her a message expressing how upset I was and reiterated that I would not host the wedding and that she needed to respect my boundaries. Now, the issue escalated to our parents. Jess told them that I was being difficult, selfish, and unsupportive. My parents called me and tried to mediate, but I stuck to my stance. I told them that hosting a wedding in my small apartment was not safe or practical, and the insult to my home was unacceptable. They seemed sympathetic, but also reminded me that weddings are important to Jess and that she might never forgive me if I didn't compromise. The day of the wedding, I attended as a guest. The venue was beautiful, and the wedding went off without a hitch. I congratulated Jess and Mark, but she barely spoke to me the entire day, only exchanging cold, polite nods. Since then, she has posted pictures on social media and tagged everyone except me in most of them. When I commented positively, she either ignored it or responded tersely. Our family dynamics have become strained, and I feel guilty for ruining her wedding experience, even though I know I did nothing wrong in terms of logistics. I have tried reaching out to her since the wedding, but she either doesn't respond or gives short, dismissive replies. Our parents keep suggesting I let it go and apologize, but I genuinely don't feel like I need to. I have boundaries about my personal space and resources, and I think it's reasonable to expect respect for those boundaries. So, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she insulted my home and ignored my repeated explanations about why it wouldn't work. People in my social circle are split. Some say I should have just let her use the apartment to avoid drama, while others say my boundaries and feelings about my home are valid and that she crossed the line. I'm left wondering if I overreacted or if my stance was justified. I don't want our relationship to be permanently damaged, but I also feel that I have the right to defend my space and dignity. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after years of family tension. I never thought I'd be in this position, but here I am, questioning whether I'm being unreasonable. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 29F, and we have a complicated relationship. Our parents divorced when I was 15, and Emily was 12. I ended up taking on a lot of responsibility at home, helping to care for her while also navigating my own teenage issues. Over the years, Emily has always been the favored child in terms of attention from our mom, while I often felt like I was invisible unless I achieved something notable. I don't say this to bash my sister. She's a wonderful person in many ways, but I do have lingering resentment about the way our family dynamics shaped my adolescence and young adulthood. Fast forward to last year, Emily got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Mark. Their relationship is solid, and I like him a lot, so I was happy for her. When she started discussing wedding plans, she immediately assumed I would host it in my home. I live in a large, comfortable house that my husband and I bought a few years ago. It's not palatial by any means, but it's spacious and convenient, and I understand why she might think it's a good location. The issue is that Emily hasn't really respected boundaries in the past. She frequently drops by unannounced, criticizes my home decor choices, and even borrowed items without asking. I've spent years trying to assert my independence from her and our mother, but every time I do, it feels like my boundaries are ignored. Hosting her wedding felt like a massive overstep. When I told her I didn't feel comfortable hosting the wedding, she was shocked. She said things like, "It's your sister. Of course you should host," and you're just being difficult. I explained that hosting a wedding is a huge responsibility, emotionally and financially, and I don't feel like I should shoulder that burden for a celebration that isn't mine. I suggested alternatives: a venue in the city, a local park, or even a friend's hall. I offered to help in other ways: help with planning, organizing vendors, or even paying for part of the catering if it was a budget issue. I thought this was a fair compromise, but she didn't see it that way. Things escalated when our mom got involved. She texted me saying that I was breaking Emily's heart and that I should do the right thing because family sticks together. I tried to explain that I love my sister and want her to have a beautiful wedding, but I don't love her any less if I don't host it in my home. My husband backed me up, saying that hosting an event like that is a huge commitment, and it's okay to set boundaries. My parents have always been quick to guilt me for prioritizing my own needs, so I expected some pushback, but the intensity surprised me. Emily stopped speaking to me for a week after I refused. When she finally did, she accused me of being selfish and said that if I couldn't support her in this way, I didn't care about her happiness. I try to stay calm, reminding her that I am supporting her. I am just not hosting the wedding. I even offer to help with specific tasks like choosing flowers, managing RSVPs, or making a wedding playlist. Nothing I suggested was acceptable to her. She wants me to be the host in every sense, as if I'm responsible for the event's success and the comfort of her guests. It felt like she was trying to relive the family dynamic of our youth, where I was expected to accommodate everyone else's needs at my expense. The day she announced her wedding date, she said she had already booked a venue. She didn't mention it to me until after the deposit was paid. I felt relieved in one sense, but also hurt that she didn't trust me enough to communicate directly. Our parents were furious that I didn't host it, and my sister started posting about family betrayal on social media, subtly hinting that I was the problem. Friends and acquaintances who follow her posts started messaging me to ask why I wasn't supporting my sister. The pressure has been overwhelming, and I'm questioning myself now more than ever. My husband keeps reminding me that boundaries are healthy, and my sister is capable of having a wonderful wedding without me hosting it. He says that me saying no does not equal not caring, but part of me feels like I'm letting her down. I've been thinking a lot about our family history, how I was often the responsible one, the one expected to sacrifice, and how Emily was allowed to focus on her own wants. Part of me feels like history is repeating itself, and I refuse to be that person again. I want to love my sister and support her, but not at the cost of my mental health, my relationship with my husband, or my home life. The final straw came when my sister sent a group message to extended family saying that I refused to host her wedding and implying that I was selfish and ungrateful. I felt blindsided because I thought our disagreements would remain private. I responded politely, explaining my perspective, but the damage was done. Some relatives have taken sides, and I've had friends asking me why I would choose myself over family. I can't tell if I'm truly being unreasonable or if my sister's trying to guilt me into a role I'm not comfortable with. Now, a few months later, the wedding is happening at a venue. I'm attending as a guest, and I'm doing my best to support Emily in ways that feel reasonable to me. Despite this, the tension hasn't eased. Our parents occasionally make comments that suggest I should have just hosted, and that I'm making things unnecessarily difficult. Emily avoids me unless it's unavoidable, and I feel this lingering resentment on both sides. I keep asking myself if I overreacted or if I'm justified in saying no. I don't want to be painted as the villain in my family, but I also don't want to repeat patterns that have left me drained and resentful for years. So, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding. Even though I offered other forms of support and care for her, I feel torn between doing what feels right for me and what my family expects of me, and I'm not sure if my perspective is valid. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move in with us while she recovers from surgery. So I, 29F, live with my boyfriend, Alex, 31M, in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. My younger sister, Lily, 25F, recently got engaged to her fiancé, Dan, 27M, and they're planning to get married this summer. Lily has always been a little dramatic and a bit of a perfectionist, but she's also my sister, and I do care about her. A couple of weeks ago, she had an unexpected surgery that required her to stay home and avoid heavy lifting or strenuous activity for at least 6 weeks. Because of the recovery, she asked if she could stay with us for a while, which I said was fine. She could stay for a week or two until she got back on her feet. Here's where the problem started. A few days after she moved in, she casually mentioned that Dan would be staying with her too. I was taken aback because I had agreed only to help her, not to suddenly take on her fiancé as well. I tried to explain that our apartment is small, and with Alex and me both working from home a lot lately, having a third adult in the space would be really challenging. I offered that Dan could come by occasionally to help with groceries or errands, but I wasn't comfortable with him living with us full time. Lily got upset and started saying things like, "He's my fiancé. I need him here to take care of me, and I can't do this alone. You're being unreasonable." I tried to stay calm and suggested a compromise. Maybe they could find a short-term rental, or Dan could stay with a friend or a hotel until she felt well enough to manage on her own. Lily's response was that it was ridiculous to make her pay for a hotel when we already have space, and that Alex and I should just be nice since it's a recovery. She even hinted that I was being selfish for not wanting to help both of them, which really hurt because I do care about her well-being. Things started to get tense. Lily began acting passive-aggressively, leaving piles of laundry in the living room, taking over the kitchen, and making snide comments whenever I tried to enforce any boundaries. I tried to remind her gently that I needed space too, and that my home life with Alex couldn't revolve around her and her fiancé. She countered by saying that she and Dan deserve to be comfortable while she's recovering, and that I was prioritizing convenience over family. Alex has been supportive of me setting boundaries, but he's also worried about escalating tension. He suggested that maybe I should just let Dan stay for a short period to keep the peace. I tried, but after a few days, it became obvious that the situation was unsustainable. Dan was working from home as well, which meant the apartment felt crowded and noisy. My personal space disappeared entirely, and I felt stressed and anxious constantly. One night, after a particularly frustrating day, when Dan had left the kitchen in a mess and Lily had criticized me for being grumpy, I told Lily firmly that she needed to either find an alternative arrangement for Dan, or both of them would have to move back to their apartment until she could manage on her own. Lily started crying and accused me of betraying my family and not loving her enough to help, which made Alex and me feel guilty for a moment, but we stood our ground. The situation has now reached a breaking point. Lily has moved back to her apartment, but she's still upset and has been posting subtle jabs on social media about how her family doesn't help when it really counts. Dan hasn't spoken to me directly, but he unfollowed me on social media, which I feel is unnecessary and passive-aggressive. I know I could have been more flexible, and I did allow her to stay for a little while, but I honestly feel that having both her and her fiancé move in was a huge overstep, and it put me and Alex in a very uncomfortable position. I think people are underestimating how difficult it can be to suddenly have 2 extra adults in a small space, especially when both of us work from home and rely on a certain level of calm to manage our mental health. So, AITA for refusing to let Lily's fiancé move in with us while she recovers from surgery, even though I allowed her to stay for a short period. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.